Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Sam. Welcome back to Apple Unboxing Week. We did AirPods yesterday, the iPad Mini 5 the day before. Today we're taking a look at the 2019 iPad Air. It's a 10.5-inch version, which is one of my favorite sized iPads, if not my favorite sized iPad of all time. This device costs 499 buckaroos, so you don't have to save up that long, maybe just a couple months' salary. But really, I think this is a reasonably priced iPad, and I think what you're getting for that package is going to be really cool. This also supports the Apple Pencil. It doesn't have a crazy screen, but we'll talk about all the specs once we jump inside. So drop a like if you're excited, hit subscribe if you want to see more. Let's go ahead and take this out of the box. So here's a look at the packaging for the 2019 iPad Air. It is nothing special, just the iPad Air moniker on the side, a couple of Apple logos, and of course a thin layer of plastic covering it off. We go ahead and cut that or tear it or rip it off. There's actually a really handy pull tab on here, just like for the iPad Mini. We can go ahead and then pop the top open. We're of course resting first and foremost is the newest iPad Air. We'll unwrap that in just a moment, but below there are a couple of things that are worth noting. First of all, everybody's favorite quick start guide. And then you've also got some other terms and conditions. And with the iPad Pro, while they are not color matching, you of course do get two Apple stickers. Right below the quick start guide inside of the iPad Air's box is a 12-watt charging adapter. So charging your iPad is going to be relatively quick. 12 watts is a pretty standard rate for an iPad. Not as fast as the iPad Pro though, that actually has 18. And of course a lightning cable. No USB-C here just yet. And that's what's inside the box. Absolutely nothing out of the ordinary at all. So returning to the iPad Air 3 right here, go ahead and peel that plastic off. It's always at this point I ask myself, was it really worth it? Should I have paid out this much money? And in this case, I really believe that that answer is going to be yes. While it looks like an iPad you've already seen, the specs inside of here are really good. There's an Apple A12 processor, which is going to make this thing absolutely lightning fast, and I'm looking forward to trying that out in just a couple of minutes. Now, during the setup process, we come across a couple of the flagship features of this device. Aside from the bezels being thin on the left and right sides of the display when you are holding it in portrait mode, you get thicker bezels on the top and bottom of the screen. And what that means is you get Touch ID instead of Face ID. It is that faster second generation Touch ID sensor. It is lightning fast, and honestly using it makes me miss Touch ID a lot more than I thought I would. Face ID is great, but it fails from time to time. It is definitely not as reliable as Touch ID, and it's a little bit slower. At the same time, I would argue, as Apple claims, that it is much more secure. I think the chance of somebody being able to unlock your phone with Face ID is 1 in a million, where Touch ID is in the 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 50,000 range. It's a much smaller number. Another really nice feature that I'm a big fan of that you'll notice during setup is True Tone. So that's where the screen automatically adjusts its color temperature based on the ambient light in your environment. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally think it's one of Apple's coolest features that they've ever worked on, so I will definitely be enabling that True Tone display. And that's pretty much when you get into the device. This is the 2019 iPad Air. I still can't believe that we're talking about the iPad Air. We thought this device was dead. We'd actually only heard a rumor that this device was even in the works about a week or two before Apple just went ahead and released it, which is crazy. Usually these devices are rumored for months on end, but that's probably because this device is extremely similar to a device that Apple was already making up until this point, and that was the 10.5-inch iPad Pro from 2017. And I think it's important to discuss the differences between the two because while there are a lot of similarities, this device could be right for you, or depending on what you want to do with your iPad, the older 2017 iPad Pro could actually be a better fit. A couple big things right off the bat. This has a 60 Hz display, which means while it's going to look smooth just like your iPhone, the iPad Pro from 2017, the 10.5-inch model, just like this one, has twice the screen refresh rate. So everything on screen is going to be twice as smooth. I love that feature. That is probably my favorite Apple feature that they've introduced on a device in the past few years, just because 120 Hz literally looks to me twice as good as 60 Hz. So I'm a big fan of that. You don't get that with this because for $499, Apple couldn't include all those premium features that they were just selling a week before on a $649 device. Also different between the 2017 iPad Pro and the 2019 iPad Air is the camera setup. Let's talk about the cameras on this 2019 iPad. I've shot a couple of sample pics, and I have to say, they are extremely disappointing, and I felt the same way about pictures off of the iPad Mini. When I review these devices or do a big comparison video that I'm working on, and it's disappointing because Apple usually creates really good camera systems. For example, on the newest iPad Pros and even on the 2018 iPhones, one could argue they are some of the best cameras, on the market. But with these, Apple just slapped some really old cameras inside of the 2019 iPad Pro as well as the 2019 5th generation iPad mini. This has a 7 megapixel shooter on the front that is roughly similar to what we had on the 2017 iPad Pro. Where it gets a lot different is on the back. You get a average 8 megapixel sensor on the back of this 2019 iPad Air, but you were able to shoot 4K video and get a 12 megapixel shooter on an iPad the same size that came out almost 2 years ago, which is always weird to be moving forward, but also get less features at the same time. I'm not a fan when Apple does that, and I wanted to share those two big features, a worse screen and a worse camera system for $150 less on this new iPad. Now, where does it shine? Where is it better than the 2017 10.5-inch iPad Pro? Well, of course, that is going to be on what is internal. You have the A12 processor in here. It's insane. It's the A12 Bionic chip. You get the same one in the iPad mini 5 and the 2018 iPhones. It is ridiculously fast, and it's going to last you years inside of this device. Apple was not the fastest in the game for processors for a really long time, and then a few years ago, that flipped. They have the fastest processors, at least as far as mobile goes, on the market, and that shines in every way on this iPad. It doesn't feel to me like a $499 tablet. To me, this feels just as quick as my 2018 iPad Pro that I paid $300 more for, that has an A12X Bionic in that. You have an A12 in this, but in day-to-day use, you're not really going to notice a difference between the two. It's just when push comes to shove, yes, the faster processor can do more than the slower processor, but fast and slow when you're talking about A12 and A12X, it's still fast, That is important to highlight though, because if you are looking at that older 2017 iPad Pro, you want that screen, you want that better camera system, it does have a slower processor. It is, I think, rocking the A10 Fusion chip, which again, while it's not slow, there is a pretty big difference between that and the A12 chip. Also, before moving on to anything else, I know I already talked about Touch ID, but just take a minute, take a hot breath, a breather. You've had a rough day at work, the kids are driving you nuts. Look at this Touch ID sensor. Look at it. It's just so good. This is what I miss. It is actually instantaneous. Part of me wants to say that this is the fastest Touch ID sensor I've ever used. I could just be saying that because it's new, but it is off. The screen is off. iPad totally not in use right now. One scan, and I'm in. Instantaneously. I can't even believe it. It's so good. And that just adds to the value of this, along with the headphone jack. If you care about the headphone jack, that is still here. That's not on the newest iPad Pro, but any iPad other than the iPad Pros in 2019 does have a headphone jack. So if you really care about that and you want to listen to music that way, that is here. Now, a couple of other tidbits about the screen here. In addition to it being True Tone, you do get a laminated display. I believe the iPad Air 2 for sure had a laminated screen. It might have been one of the first iPads to do that, but you couldn't really get a good iPad in recent history for under $700 or $800 with a laminated display. Now you can for $499 or even $399 with the iPad mini 5. It's gorgeous. It looks incredible. You can't see an air gap. There is none. You're just directly touching the content itself, and it feels incredible. Also here, you get the wider P3 color gamut, so colors do look really great, like they should. And actually, I just found one other change while looking around the device, because I definitely thought it had stereo speakers, but it doesn't. Another big difference between this 10.5-inch iPad Air and the 10.5-inch iPad Pro from 2017 is stereo audio. You get two nice speakers down below at the bottom of the device, but there's just nothing at the top. Again, Apple wanted to cut costs here. Quality-wise, I would say these speakers sound better than a $499 tablet should, but quantity-wise, I do think there should be stereo on this device. Either way, you're going to be happy with the audio quality. This is not their Pro iPad. The Pro iPad has that 120Hz screen that you can buy right now. It's got the edge-to-edge design. It's got really great cameras. It's got stereo speakers. It's got Apple Pencil 2 support. If you want all that, this iPad is not for you. This is that mid-range iPad when you want the iPad Pro but don't want to spend that much, but you also want something better than that budget $329 iPad. And that's what this does. And I think it's going to fill that spot really well, even if it does only have support for the Apple Pencil 1. Last thing I want to touch on is Apple Pencil 1 support. Like Apple, I get why you did it. I know why this iPad doesn't support the second generation Apple Pencil. I'm also frustrated because I literally had to go out and buy another Apple Pencil just to make this video and to do like my review of this because it doesn't work with the second generation version that I have that's better. This is an iPad Pencil from 2015 or 2016 and it still works with the newest iPad in 2019. Like I'm saying, it should work with all iPads, but the better version doesn't work with the newest iPad Air. That doesn't make sense in my mind. Hopefully it doesn't make sense in yours either, because it shouldn't. Even with my sarcasm, I'm legitimately hyped to review this device because I've missed more than I thought this 10.5-inch screen size. For me, the thin bezels, Touch ID, this is an incredible device, and I think this is going to be a really good value for a lot of people for $499. That's what the first ever iPad retailed for. It stayed like that for a while, and then in recent history, Apple started jacking the prices up, where a lot of people may have just wanted this design, this traditional iPad design, but with thinner bezels and a 10.5-inch screen for cheap, quote unquote. Not that $500 is cheap, but I think it's going to get the job done, and I think you're going to enjoy using this $499 tablet along the way. That's all I have for you on this 2019 iPad Air. I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing. I hope you found it valuable. If you did, drop a like down below, and of course, hit subscribe so you stay up to date on all of Apple's latest product releases and news going into, it's not even 2020 yet, just throughout the rest of the year. Thanks for watching as always, and I will catch you guys in the next one.